Look, people, I'm in despair. This coronavirus overreaction has come at such a shocking price. Today's Bureau of Statistics figures, what have our politicians done? These stats tell us that their coronavirus bans have so far cost the jobs of more than 750,000 of our fellow Australians. That's 750,000 people who have not just lost their jobs and probably their savings, they're also being told now, stay in your homes. Don't leave except for exercise, a doctor or basic shopping, if they can afford it. And the rest of us, of course, are also forced to obey very tough stay-home laws. Don't even dare go lie on Bondi Beach. And the folly of it all is that this is for a virus that in the past day to 6 a.m. this morning infected just 13 people. 1 in every 2 million of us. Does this not strike you as totally out of proportion? Today I read a story. Our stockpile of ventilators for coronavirus victims is now 3,000, with thousands more coming, which is wonderful news. I mean, we were told we're going to run out, people would be dying, needing something, no equipment, except hang on. We've actually now got just, 50 or so coronavirus patients in intensive care units where they might need ventilators? 50? Most of these new ventilators are just filling up storerooms, unused. Politicians are now fighting a health crisis that is nothing as big as they imagine. And even some very senior doctors are now wondering, crisis? Dr. Warwick Butt is the Director of Intensive Care at Melbourne's Royal Children's Hospital. And he says, yes, of course they had to prepare for this virus. I mean, we didn't know what was coming, did we? But now looking around, he's told the Herald Sun a number of patients in the beds, the number now, normal, and said, hang on. He points out that the United States last year, there were 38 million cases of the normal flu and around 80,000 deaths there. Did you hear anything about it? In fact, last year, 900 Australians died of the flu. 900. With no media fuss, no stay-home laws, nothing. This coronavirus hasn't killed 900 Australians. It's killed just 72. A person in her 90s died today. Yet look at the utter devastation that our politicians have caused by their overreaction. I mean, going back to Warwick Butt, that ICU boss. Yes, this coronavirus is deadly. And yes, there is no vaccine and we need to be careful. But he says what we are seeing here is the media and internet spreading information, and anxiety and concern escalates. But actually, when you look at the mortality rate, it's probably not worse than the flu. I mean, it hits you harder than the flu, that's true, but the mortality rate will probably turn out to be less than the flu, or about the same. But our politicians will not say that truth. Now, sure, we have actually kept deaths from the coronavirus down to much less than the flu due to some of the bans, but other bans are now so extreme that this cure is turning out to be worse than the disease. But again, politicians are too scared to tell you that truth. When you see the abuse and the Twitter rage, and an economist who did say that last night on the ABC, you can understand why politicians are cowards.
People in nursing homes who can be quarantined, yes, we should protect them. That doesn't mean that, we shouldn't be thinking as well about other human welfare costs. Even with a very, very extreme epidemic in Australia, we are still potentially better off not having an economic lockdown in the first place because of the incredible effects that you see, not just in a short-run way, but in many, many years to come.
How can you say that? How can you say that? Like, we're avoiding what's happened in the UK, what's happening in the US. The idea of having our ICUs overrun, our healthcare workers dying as well, is just the most horrible thought.
It's horrible. It's horrible either way.
And on one side of the equation, yes, to repeat, 780,000 Australians lost their jobs in just 3 weeks. Hundreds of billions of dollars are now being spent on this lockdown that we will not have later for schools and pensions and hospitals. And our politicians just don't seem to have the courage to face up to the fact that this coronavirus crisis was exaggerated, that there was no way that 150,000 of us would die, like Victoria's Chief Health Officer was warning the other day. But that modelling, that panicked our politicians and excited the media. Now our leaders are too scared to relax the bans that are hurting us more than helping. Sure, the National Cabinet of federal and state leaders did today finally agree to end some of the bans on elective surgeries. Bans imposed to free hospital beds for floods of coronavirus victims that never came, but only a quarter of these bans will be lifted.
Today we agreed to lift restrictions on elective surgery after Anzac Day, after the long weekend. We will be easing the restrictions on the following areas, and that is all Category 2 or equivalent procedures in the private sector, and selected Category 3 and other procedures, which includes all IVF, post-cancer reconstruction procedures such as breast reconstruction, dental and Level 2 restrictions, such as fitting dentures, braces, non-high-speed drilling and basic fillings, all procedures for children under the age of 18, all joint replacements including knees, hips and shoulders, all cataracts and eye procedures, all endoscopy and colonoscopy.
That's great, yeah, but I thought it could have been easily done last week, and the Prime Minister still keeps refusing to give up on any of the stay-home rules. Still refuses to accept that with just 13 new infections in the past day, that it is ludicrous to talk of a month more of all these bans at least.
We are still very much in the middle of combating this terrible virus. It means we need to stick to our plan.
No. That plan was based on a false premise, on false modelling. We can all see that now. But no one will admit it. No one who counts. Meanwhile, Australians pay the price of this stubbornness, like the 780,000 Australians who've just lost their jobs, or the students who can't go to school, or the families going crazy, locked up in their homes for weeks. What has happened to us, to our reason?